He took his speech.
What kind of a host is that? Career. I thank you, Mr. President, and it's always good to see you. I appreciate your hospitality to me and Cindy and Governor Palin. And let me also congratulate you, sir, on the great work of the Clinton Global Initiative. It says a lot. It says a lot about a man after 12 years as a governor and another 8 years at the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. He's still working hard in service to others. Bill Clinton is a man who has achieved enough in public service by any measure except his own. This man's drive and determination and compassion for those in need are still a force for good in the world. Very frankly, I'm very proud to call him a friend. Your kind invitation brought me here to discuss especially climate change, extreme poverty, and epidemic diseases. But I know and hope you'll understand if I begin by addressing a crisis of our own right here in America. A crisis that began not far from here in the financial district of this city. We know this is a crisis with serious implications and consequences for our nation and for the world. History must not record when our nation faced such a moment, its leadership was unable to put aside politics and to focus in a unified way to solve this problem. It's time for everyone to recall that the political process is not an end in itself, nor it is intended to serve those of us who are in the middle of it. In the Senate of the United States, our duty is to serve the people of this country, and we can serve them best now by putting politics aside and dealing in a focused, straightforward, bipartisan way with the problem that's at hand. For the Congress, this is one of those moments in history when poor decisions made in haste could turn crisis into a far-reaching disaster. If we do not act, credit will dry up, with grave consequences for workers and businesses across American economy and beyond. People will no longer be able to buy homes. Their life savings will be at stake. Businesses will not have enough money to pay their employees, and as ever, the greatest burden is borne by the American people. $700 billion is a staggering and unprecedented figure, and there should be no misunderstanding about the dimensions of this proposal. $700 billion, for example, could rebuild the crumbling infrastructure in every town, county, and state in this country. A great deal is being asked the American people, and great care must be taken to ensure their protection. As most of you know, I'm an old Navy pilot, and I know when a crisis calls for all hands on deck. That's the situation in Washington at this very hour, when the whole future of the American economy is in danger. I cannot carry on a campaign as though this dangerous situation had not occurred, or as though a solution were at hand, which it clearly is not. As of this morning, I suspended my political campaign, as you know, with so much on the line for America and the world. The debate that matters most right now is taking place in the United States Capitol. I intend to join it. Senator Obama is doing the same. America should be proud of the bipartisanship that we're seeing. It's become clear that no consensus has developed to support the administration's proposal to meet this crisis. I do not believe that the plan on the table will pass as it currently stands, and obviously we are running out of time. So I'm returning to Washington to seek 5 fundamental improvements to this critical legislation. I've laid out these principles over the past week. First, There must be greater accountability included in this legislation. I've suggested a bipartisan board to provide oversight for the rescue. We won't solve a problem caused by poor oversight with a plan that has no oversight. Never before in the history of our nation has so much power and money been concentrated in the hands of one person. And there must be protections and oversight in place. Second, as a part of that oversight, there must be a path for taxpayers to recover the money that's put into this fund. When we're talking about 700 billion taxpayers' dollars, that money can't simply go back into a black hole of bad debt with no means of recovering any of the funds. Third, there must be complete transparency in the review of this legislation and in the implementation of any legislation. This can't be thrown together behind closed doors. The American people have the right to know which businesses will be helped, what that selection will be based on, and how much that help will cost. All the details should be made available online and elsewhere for open public scrutiny. Fourth, it's completely unacceptable for any kind of earmarks to be included in this bill. It would be outrageous for legislators and lobbyists to pack this rescue plan with even more taxpayer money for favored companies. And frankly, members of Congress who would attempt such a thing are scarcely better than the most reckless operators on Wall Street. Fifth and finally, no Wall Street executive should profit from taxpayers' dollars. Let me put it this way. I would rather build a bridge to nowhere and put it square in the middle of Sedona, Arizona, than take money from teachers and farmers and small business owners to line the pockets of the Wall Street crowd that got us here in the first place. And I can assure you, if I have anything to say about the matter, it's not going to happen. It's difficult to act both quickly and wisely, but that's what's required right now. Time is short, and doing nothing is not an option. I'm confident before the markets open on Monday that we can achieve consensus on legislation that will stabilize our financial markets, protect taxpayers and homeowners, and earn the confidence of the American people. I've seen Republicans and Democrats achieve great things together. The stakes were high and it mattered most. I've seen them work together in common purpose, as we did in the weeks after September 11th. This kind of cooperation has made all the difference in the world at crucial times in our history. It's given us hope in difficult times. It's moved America forward through all adversity. And now in this crisis, we must work together again and put our country first. On all of this comes on top of other hardships that Americans have been dealing with, especially the rising cost of energy. And these two, as you well understand, at the Clinton Global Initiative, are problems that require us to call upon the best ideas of both parties. For the future of our economy, nothing is more essential than a secure and affordable supply of energy. As you well know, people are hurting. They're hurting because the cost of gasoline is out of control. Small farmers, truckers, and taxi drivers in this city and elsewhere are unable to cover their costs. Small business owners are struggling to meet payroll. For American workers, the cost of living is rising and the value of paychecks falling. All of this, in large part because the price of oil is too high and the supply of oil too uncertain. These citizens believe their government has a duty to finally assure the energy security of this country, and they are right. Every form of economic activity requires the use of energy, and that's why we need to draw on the best ideas of both parties on energy policy and work together for the common good. Among our challenges is one that we hardly even understood back when America first learned to associate the word energy with crisis. We now know that fossil fuel emissions, by retaining heat within the atmosphere, threaten disastrous changes in climate. No challenge of energy is to be taken lightly, and least of all, the need to avoid the consequences of global warming. Over time, we must shift our entire energy economy toward a sustainable mix of new and cleaner power sources. This will include some we use already, such as wind, solar, biofuels, and other sources yet to be invented. It will include and must include a variety of new automotive and fuel technologies, clean burning coal and nuclear energy, a new system of incentives under a cap and trade policy to put the power of the market on the side of environmental protection. To make the great turn away from carbon-emitting fuels, we will need all the inventive genius of which America is capable. We will need as well an economy strong enough to support our nation's great shift towards clean energy. Global warming presents a test of foresight, of political courage, and of the unselfish concern that one generation owes to the next. We need to think straight about the dangers ahead and meet the problem with all the resources of human ingenuity at our disposal. You know, we Americans like to say that there's no problem we can't solve, however complicated, and no obstacle we can't overcome if we meet it together. I believe this about our country. Now it's time for us to show those qualities once again.